Despite concerns about transparency, Barrie City Council voted to include the organization called Safe Barrie in the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Committee. During last week's City Council meeting at Barrie City Hall, Ward 4 Councillor Amy Courser put forward an amendment to remove Safe Barrie from the committee. The amendment was seconded by Ward 1 Councillor Claire Ripma.
The reason why I brought this amendment forward, was because I did a quick search of who Safe Barrie was, and I couldn't find any information about the group. They're not listed in a business registry unless they're a numbered company. They're not a registered nonprofit. I couldn't find a board of directors or a record of members. There is a Facebook group who last posted from 2019, and I don't even know if it's the same entity. Probably not. I don't know. I can't find out because I couldn't find a presence at all or any information on this group, and I think it's I think it's a strange precedent to set that we are appointing members to a community safety well-being plan committee. All the other members of the committee, you can look them up, you can see who they are. You can check what their mandates are. You can see what their board of directors, any kind of information. You can contact them with questions, whatever it may be. But this group here seems to be pretty, at this point, at this time, anonymous. So if there was maybe I invite them to come to the Community Safety Committee, do a presentation, or any kind of information that would be given would be make myself comfortable to actually vote on this. But I don't know who they are at this time. They could be an indie rock band. I have no idea who they are.
Courser raised concerns about the group after two community leaders from Barrie penned open letters to Mayor Alex Nuttall and the council opposing the inclusion of Safe Barrie. Christine Naylor and Brandon Ambiot claimed that the group was formed to oppose the safe consumption site, and there are no details available of their membership, mission, or past work. Councillor Gary Harvey of Ward 7 appeared to confirm these claims during the City Council meeting.
Some varying opinions, especially when it came to certain aspects of the community safety plan, and predominantly when we were discussing the safe consumption site. I don't necessarily blame them for not advertising who their names are.
However, given the support from the mayor, her amendment failed, and the council went ahead with the group's inclusion in the committee.
Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Harvey, Section D of the Second General Committee Report dated May 29, 2024, now circulated, be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Harvey that Section D of the Second General Committee Report dated May 29, 2024, now circulated, be adopted. 24G140, Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Committee.
Hold, please.
And,
oh, sorry.
Sure, you can just have the floor there, Councillor.
May I have the floor?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have an amendment, if I may, and then I can speak to that. So I am moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Jim Harris, that motion 24G140 of Section D of the Second General Committee Report dated May 29, 2024, regarding Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee be amended to add a representative from the Simcoe-Muskoka District Health Unit.
It's moved by Councillor Kungle, seconded by Councillor Harris. The motion 24G140 of Section D of the Second General Committee Report dated May 29, 2024, regarding Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Committee be amended to add a representative from the Simcoe-Muskoka District Health Unit. Councillor Kungle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. So while I appreciate the structure currently, and I know that there'll be engagement much broader, and this structure doesn't reflect everyone that was on the original committee to develop the plan. The health unit has a broad scope, not just an agency-specific mandate, and due to their work in the past and ongoing, they have dedicated staff continuing to do this work, and I think it would be great for them to bring in fact-based information to having touched a lot of these other elements that are in the plan. Not to say, I know there's been a lot of interest by other members in general, but I think if people look to the terms of reference of this, that I'm seeing most people that have engaged me about what about other agencies might be able to find themselves at least within the scope of representation of those groups, or can be engaged by the committee, knowing that all the meetings of that committee, when it's struck, will be public facing. So I do, though, believe that it is a valid request for the health unit based on its mandate and its work to date to be considered as an addition.
Thank you, Councillor Kungle, and the amendments on the floor. Are there any other comments or questions from members of council? Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Maybe just to be supportive, I seconded this, but I did appreciate, and having missed last week, thank you everybody for your efforts to put together this committee. Yeah, I think the health unit is a really great add, given the sectors that are represented, and I agree with Councillor Congo that we have some entities that represent multiple agencies, so it really strengthens the collective effort. So with the amendment, I think we've got a strong committee, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Any other questions or comments? I'm seeing none. All those in favor? It carries. So the main motion as amended. Are there any other questions or comments? I think Councillor Courser.
Yes, I have an amendment to the motion.
Yep, go ahead.
So moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Ritma, that motion 24G140 of the Second General Committee report dated May 29, 2024 be amended to remove the member from Safe Barrie, and I can speak to that.
Sure. The floor is yours as soon as I read that out.
Mm-hmm.
It's moved by Councillor Courser, seconded by Councillor Rietman, that motion 24G140 of the Second General Committee report dated May 29, 2024 be amended to remove the member from Safe Barrie. And the floor is yours. Sorry, Councillor, you got to turn the mic on.
The reason why I brought this amendment forward, was because I did a quick search of who Safe Barrie was, and I couldn't find any information about the group. They're not listed in a business registry unless they're a numbered company. They're not a registered nonprofit. I couldn't find a board of directors or a record of members. There is a Facebook group who last posted from 2019, and I don't even know if it's the same entity. Probably not. I don't know. I can't find out because I couldn't find a presence at all or any information on this group. And I think it's, I think it's a strange precedent to set that we are appointing members to a community safety wellbeing plan committee. All the other members of the committee, you can look them up, you can see who they are. You can check what their mandates are. You can see what their board of directors, any kind of information. You can contact them with questions, whatever it may be. But this group here seems to be pretty, at this point, at this time, anonymous. So if there was maybe I invite them to come to the Community Safety Committee, do a presentation, or any kind of information that would be given would be make myself comfortable to actually vote on this. But I don't know who they are at this time. They could be an indie rock band. I have no idea who they are. So I just wanted to put that forward. Thank you.
An indie rock band would make the committee more interesting. There's no question. Deputy Mayor, I think, as I recall it, the Safe Barrie folks came out to the Community Safety Committee for the public meeting we had on safety downtown. Councillor Congo?
I still have the floor. I don't remember they
actually,
being an organization.
Sorry, you can only speak once at City Council, and you've already ceded the floor. Councillor Congo?
Maybe to clarify if it's helpful, and I'm not sure if this is fair to ask Ms. McAlpine, but I'm looking at the motion, and it says to establish with the following agencies, boards, and or commissions, and maybe it's how we define that or it's interpreted, but can you speak to, I do recognize that it also identifies, I think in paragraph 15, that there have been different organizations approached in forming the original plan. Some of those have evolved or changed over time. Does the structure of this committee, which is mandated to review the existing plan by July 1st of 2025, is it structured with a provincial expectation or our own expectation where those representatives have to fit into how we define agencies, boards, or commissions, or can they be more loosely represented?
Mayor Nuttall, through you to Councillor Kungle, the listed ones that were included in the initial staff report, excuse me, are the ones that are legislatively required. Council has the authority and discretion to add them.
Okay, so, good. Do you have water?
And those organizations that you had do not need to be an agency, or it can be any entity or person.
I'm not prepared to judge to remove someone that I think has, while I don't know them well, is a name that I recognize as a local one and a diversity of opinion. So for me, I'm looking at, hearing from the rest of the group, but otherwise, if it passes, then having someone from Safe Barrie identify themselves and if they represent a group or if they represent an individual and whether or not if they've evolved in structure, then maybe they're not appropriate, and we can consider that with the meeting of the committee in terms of reference about who's there and who's confirmed membership, because I think we've not put names to this, just I'll call it entities for sake of having different forms, whether it be a board, corporation, or commission, or maybe a grassroots group.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions from members of council? Councillor Harris?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall, and thank you, Councillor Courser. You made good points. Having not been to the discussion last week, I don't know where that went as far as understanding the value of Safe Barrie, and I, again, like Councillor Kungle, don't have enough information to say they should or shouldn't, and I respect that they were there from last week. So I guess that question would be, in knowing that we have in the recommended motion designated sectors, areas that are identified to round up the committee, and as I said earlier, Council took a really, I think, a thoughtful approach, not to target organizations, agencies, but to target individuals, or pardon me, not individuals, persons who represent collectives. So the Coalition for Children, Youth and Families, the Barrie Area OHT, representing many of the healthcare providers in our community, and the county representing those who provide services in our community. So I guess maybe it's a question: is there a sector here that Safe Barrie represents that isn't covered by the collective effort that we have with all of the other members? And if so, I mean, that sounds like an opportunity. But I wouldn't know enough to discern their role and how to appreciate them as a new member so I don't think I could vote them out, but I like the idea of, as this committee evolves, there's, what role do they play and what specific function do they add to this effort? So I'll leave it at that, but thank you.
Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Maybe a little clarification. In the June public meeting we had, there was some business owners who had come down and spoke about some of the behaviors and some of the experiences in downtown. So the Safer Barrie group would be some downtown businesses and some people who are working with the county on looking at solutions and just a different perspective. And I appreciate Councillor Kungle and Councillor Harris's motion that put on the health unit, which I think there's some varying opinions, which is what you need to get to, a good place with something like this, where I think that we looked a little bit too much on organizations last time. We're having the umbrella approach where you can see where some of the deficiencies are and stuff like that, where you're able to draw in from all these other different agencies. So at this time, I can't support the amendment. And for those reasons, I think the committee will, have meetings and then see the strong points and, if people want to continue to participate and stuff, and with the value to the committee. So I will be, No, I meant the first amendment to put the health unit on was Councillor Kungle's.
Councillor Hamilton and then Councillor Morales.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Nuttall. I do think Councillor Courser raises some excellent points, and I myself also tried to look into Safe Barrie in terms of what their sort of mission goals or who they were within our community. And I'm hesitant as well to put a group on this that I really have no idea, not that I want specific individuals, but I have no idea what they do in this space. And so I'm actually leaning to where she's coming at it from. And I think if the committee gets together, and again, I'm all for diversity, having people with experience, lived experience, and having that broader consultation that even Councillor Kungl alluded to, that this is, you know, even if you're on the committee, they're probably going to do some broader outreach. I'm hesitant to have someone actually as a formal member on a committee that I also don't know who they are at this point. They could be excellent in this space. What you just said, Deputy Mayor Thompson, in terms of that they're a group of sort of business owners, I think that's great. I'd love to have that perspective, but it's really not a formalized group. So I would see that as being a broader consultation. So I'm actually going to have to agree with the amendment on the table. I don't support a group that I really don't have any background on. The other ones all make sense. They all have a specific mandate. They all have very clear objectives in sort of this function that we want. But Safe Barrie, I'm just not sure.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton and Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Question to either yourself or the clerk. Is this one of those committees that, as a result of strong mayor powers, you theoretically would have the ability to put members on the committee, chairs, vice chairs of that nature?
I only have the power under strong mayor powers to appoint members of council. When it comes to members of the public, that's not a strong mayor power that exists.
Okay.
So council appoints public members, and then if I chose to, I could appoint council members, which I chose not to do.
Okay. Perfect. I'll be supporting it. I don't have too much of a concern regarding the group, the lack of exposure. Every week, I'm finding out of new groups that I didn't know operated and do great work in the community. And then the other thing that gives me comfort is that, as we've already learned in the preceding year and a bit, we do committee reviews. Now, I don't know how much, exactly we would, if we theoretically got their situation, we would need to look at that. But there's checks and balances, and the other thing is, with the representative from the various institutions that are on there, they seem to complement themselves well. So I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Morales. And Councillor Harvey, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I don't really have a huge concern with this group. I do totally agree with what the Deputy Mayor said about having broad groups being represented at the table, because I used to be on this committee when the plan was formed. And having so many people around that table and having a full boardroom in that Sir Robert Barrie room and one of the other rooms that we'd use occasionally, it was difficult to get things done, to be quite honest with you. And that's why things took much longer than what any of us would have anticipated. Eventually we got to where we needed to be. And I'm not so concerned about this group. Like, if you go onto their website, it very clearly explains who they are. They're a group of residents and business owners and community stakeholders that deeply care about the city of Barrie, and it continues on a little bit more with a few other links to Facebook and stuff. It doesn't specifically say names of people, which, I'll be quite honest with you, it doesn't concern me, because about a decade or so, I used to be involved in the Crime Stoppers world, and they too did the same thing. Years ago, you used to publicly post all your directors, and they got away from that for obvious safety concerns. And obviously, because there's some varying opinions, especially when it came to certain aspects of the community safety plan, and predominantly when we were discussing the safe consumption site, I don't necessarily blame them for not advertising who their names are, so that way they don't personally get targeted potentially, or their businesses. So I will not support the amendment. I'll move forward as the staff has recommended, because I don't have any concerns. And then obviously if concerns arise around the table, then members can report back and we can deal with it at that point.
Thank you so much, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Rietma.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I seconded the motion, and I did that because I'm not so sure that this organization is very active at the moment. And I take the Deputy Mayor's comment about the fact that these people seem to represent some of the downtown interests, and I think that's fair. And Councillor Harris has been very deliberate about, trying to expand, have a larger group representation. And my view of it is that I would far sooner have a group like the BIA represented here than this particular group. I think that is a much better representation of downtown, if that's the area that we really want to focus on with this group. So that would be my preference, and that's why I second it.
Thank you, Councillor Ritma. I think the area where this group is concerned does not fall inside the BIA. So I just as a note, and also I also wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. This was an amendment last week, so it wasn't staff recommended. It was actually an amendment. So just make sure everyone's on the same page when we're working on good information. Okay, are there any other questions or comments with regards to the amendment from Councillor Courser? Seeing none, so all those in favor of Councillor Courser's amendment and those against? Okay, it fails. On the main motion, are there any other amendments? Councillor, amendment or comment?
Not an amendment, just a comment, because I
Yeah.
can speak to it now that it's, I think, past the amendment. I think it's good conversation and really valid. And so for me, again, my hesitation is kind of the unknown, but broad strokes and those groups that kind of were involved in different engagement. But I guess I would say for individuals watching, it's not a closed door. So I think, there were over, 15 action items. The mandate of this group is really to review the plan and make some suggestions over the next year. So I would say, I'm even aware that I think there's at least 4 to 5 other agencies that were on the previous committee that are not reflected here. So it's not necessarily to replicate the last community safety and wellbeing composition, but it's really just around who can help to give a broad strokes review, advice, realignment, and come back. And I think, and I'm hoping those that have or have not been included in the structure, it looks like there was a survey of organizations that were part of the development of the original plan, and that's coming back as input into this committee. So again, they're public-facing meetings, and I would just say at least you know who's there, and perhaps once we get individuals identified, then you can reach out to ones that you're concerned about or you feel represented by. I think the other piece too is I'm assuming Ms. McAlpin, I'm not sure if you can speak to this at this time. How soon would this group start to meet? Is this a fall intention because we're coming into the summer? Or would we be looking at reaching out to these groups for a representation to be identified and confirmed before the summer break?
Through Mayor Nuttall to Councillor Kungl, given the relatively short time frame to review and revise the plan, the hope would be that we could get quorum of the group during the summertime to have at least one meeting, if not more than one. We have until July of 2025 to review and revise the plan. That's not that long a period of time. So the hope would be to get started as soon as possible, if we can achieve quorum.
And from a public transparency, would the names of members be identified once they're confirmed by their respective agencies?
Through Mayor Nuttall to Councillor Kungl, certainly they could be. One of the things that we found as part of the past committee, organizations may have sent different representatives at different times. That, as Councillor Harvey may attest to, had its benefits and challenges in terms of continuity of information, but often they may appoint someone and then have a secondary individual to ensure that they're represented. At this point in time, I think we have an idea of who the individuals would be from most of the organizations, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be at every single meeting.
And then, I guess, final question. If it's identified that the Safe Barrie group doesn't really have a structure, or it's an individual that doesn't really represent a broader group or has any type of association, it's really just an individual, would that then be dealt with around a membership change or reconsideration at that committee? Or would it come back to council as a concern?
Through Mayor Nuttall, excuse me, to Councillor Courser, to Councillor Kungl, there is no requirement for any of the additional members of the committee to have a particular affiliation. I'm not sure that came out clearly in my coughing earlier. It would not be staff reporting back on changing the composition. We're merely seeking a representative of Safe Barrie. Safe Barrie would select whomever represents them, similar to in the past with Town and Gown, they would select their representative from the Homeowners Association, and that might change over a period.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Courser.
A question to staff through you, Mayor Nuttall, to, I guess, Ms. McAlpine, if you're okay. A question, when it was, are all the meeting minutes, they're not public meetings, correct?
Mayor Nuttall, through you to Councillor Courser, this is a committee of council. The meeting agendas and minutes are public. In the last committee, they had focus groups where smaller groups of entities were involved in interviewing representatives of various sectors. Those focus groups, just like a subcommittee, wouldn't necessarily have a public agenda, but the main committee would have agendas and minutes.
Follow-up question, if I may. So it's not like any of the advisory committees. I'm guessing this is not a publicized, recorded.
It's the exact same as every other advisory committee.
Okay, so
Public
then
agendas, public minutes, and of the meeting.
So another question, so just like any of the other advisory committees, the public can actually attend the meetings then?
Yes, and that and that occurred in the past. Yes, they would be able to attend.
Okay, thank you very much.
Unless there was a closed portion of the meeting for some reason. I can't fathom it at this point, but that is possible.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the information.
Any other questions or comments on the main motion? I'm seeing none. All those in favor? And it carries.
That was the update from City Hall. Thank you for watching.